Kevin Samuels was a polarizing individual, no doubt about that. Wherever he went, there he was. And when he went live on YouTube or debated people on podcasts, he shook up the room. That was just the kind of man he was. He did it without begging for GoFundMes or Patreons or PayPals. He just did it with the facts, charm, charisma, and style. And he left it on the internet. He didn't go around talking about people or causing problems. He just did what he had to do, and that was that. And so when he passed away on May 5th, 2022, there were a myriad of haters that came out after him. Now, some of those haters were guys who were hating on him while he was still living, and they flipped the script and acted like they was his friend once he passed away. We all know who those people were. But for the most part, I want to give a shout out to those idiots who kept that same energy. One of those people who was very nonchalant about it was a guy by the name of KevOnStage.
Who?
Now, KevOnStage is some sort of internet comedian. I'm not necessarily sure what he does. He's been making these sorts of, like dusty clips for over, 10 years. And he's channeled that particular situation to a podcast that nobody really cares about. But despite that fact, he was one of the guys hating on Kevin Samuels. And I want you guys to remember this clip that he put right after Kevin Samuels' death that I thought was very disrespectful, him and his female host. Let's check it out.
Once it was kind of confirmed, there was on Twitter basically reveling in the digital streets.
Oh, dancing.
I'm talking about
Dancing.
people pulled out kazoos.
Uh-huh.
They had cakes.
They had bouncy houses.
They had bouncy. They were.
This man has caused so much strife and has inflated men's heads to like they are. What was those things they used to float through the sky real big, but they blow up?
Blimps.
Yes.
That's good, Angel.
I was like, what?
You might be the first person I ever thought who couldn't come up with the word blimp.
What's the one that blew up?
Goodyear blimp?
No.
The Heisenberg or Heisenberg?
Yeah, I think so.
Heisenberg is Breaking Bad.
I was gonna say that
Hindenburg.
word. Hindenburg is what I was thinking of.
I know it Hindenburg. Start with H and Hindenburg.
That's booty tape
That's
for
the
you.
word I was looking for. Hindenburg. It has really had men out here truly believing that it is okay. And I mean, men were doing this stuff before him, but he really popularized it. Making women who are of a certain age or of a certain look feel as though they are worthless. So it's kind of hard to be saddened that he gone.
Yeah.
That their leader is no longer here. What are you going to do? What is high value man?
Value man.
What are you going to do? That sounds, first of all, it sounds like a generic drink.
High value man?
High
Let me
value.
get that high value man.
That's most extraordinary. That's Dos Equis.
A high value man sounds like I couldn't afford the Pepsi, but I got the high value pop.
That's the Shasta.
Yes.
The Shasta man.
You
Now, speaking of high
Walmart?
value man, here's rumor.
Come on, give it to me.
No, actually not rumor. All the things said that he passed away in an apartment he was subleasing or subletting.
Of course.
Which I will just say, I thought that because he was always high value man, he was the high value man. I thought he would have, maybe he had multiple homes and he just happened to be up in the apartment. But I know the prices of the homes here in Los Angeles. I know the prices of the homes there in Atlanta. If you was a high value man living in Atlanta, you probably should have been in a home. From the way you were speaking about high value men, I assume you were of the ilk of the high value.
You remember he used to shoot in that little dark corner with the light not even on him?
Yeah, I don't.
Where your high value lights? Turn up the Kelvin, because it's too low. I don't want to revel over a man's death. However, he added nothing to the world but hatred.
But oh, how the mighty have fallen. Mr. KevOnStage probably thought he would get some more eyeballs on him once Kevin passed. And so many content creators did exactly just that. But guess what? Nobody gave a damn about KevOnStage, really. And so KevOnStage started to decline. And now he made this video begging for help. Now stop the show. You will never see Kevin Samuels do what Kev on Stage is about to do, but we're about to hear some real begging so he can keep his operations open. Let's play that clip.
Yeah, I wanted to clear something up real quick. I realized I said this at length on Patreon, but I didn't address it in the public. So as you've noticed, I've been promoting Patreon more and more, especially the last week or so. And I never really said why. So I'll just be upfront with you like I was with the Patreon yesterday. Podcast revenue has been down around 70% for me in all my podcasts. Josh, Angel, and Greg salaries are dependent on podcast revenue. And it used to be tremendously lucrative and I was able to pay them and all that type of stuff, but it's downturned tremendously. So instead of having to lay them off or reduce their salaries, I decided to give the Patreon audience and you an opportunity to help basically save their jobs. I'm not even, to put it plainly, in order to help keep them on payroll, I'm going to offer more stuff on Patreon, more shows, more exclusive content, things like that. I asked my Patreon if they could increase their monthly gift by $2 or $3, and I'm asking more people to join so that I can continue to keep these people on payroll and other creators around be able to help them do what they do, pay some of their bills as well. One question I get a lot is, what about the app? What's going to be on Patreon? What's going to be on the app? I will always make the distinction on what's going to be on the Patreon and what's going to be on the app. But the people I mentioned, Josh, Angel, Greg, they don't work for the app. So what the app does doesn't directly affect them. They work for the podcast part of Kev on Stage Studios, and that's the part that's been hit the hardest. And also the Patreon, as a result of starting the app, was also hit very hard. It dropped tremendously. So I used to be able to supplement their salary even when podcasts drop by Facebook revenue or Snapchat or whatever. But if you hear in the news, Facebook says they're not paying creators anymore, Instagram's not paying for Reels anymore, things like that, that's where that supplemental income was coming. So I really don't have the extra businesses to offset that. So I told the Patreon, I'll tell you, if you want to continue to see these podcasts and see all that stuff, then it's gonna have to come from people like you. Otherwise, I just won't be able to sustain it personally.
My, Kev on Stage, how the mighty have fallen. It's very interesting that you would actually put yourself on camera and say something like this. Dusty! How pathetic can you actually be, in my honest opinion? And this is one of the reasons why I'm saying pathetic. Content creators, and I believe Anton Daniels talked about this, are making not less money than before, making more money than before. Literally with Facebook and Snapchat and all the other opportunities, you can have all that you want. The problem is Kev on Stage is not that good. That's the real issue. And I'm not saying that he's not good because I don't like the guy. I'm saying that he's not that good because he says what? Well, he's lost 70% of his income. That means that he's not that good. If you lose 70% of your podcast, you're not that good. Or other people are just better than you, which is what happened, right? A lot of guys are in the podcast game now. They're in the podcast game strong and they're good. If you're doing the same thing you've been doing all the last 8 years, 9 years, like I'm looking at this guy's YouTube page, there's no thumbnails for the most part. He's not investing in this stuff for the most part. Strategy is dusty. He doesn't care. Well, what do you expect, bro? You're not even serious. Just go and look at somebody like Fresh and Fit's page. And I don't want to even give him a shout out, but look at the presentation. Look at the effort they're trying to put into the game. That's not what you're trying to do. You're over here talking about you lost 70% of your income because you haven't tried to do anything right. And you have merchandise, all these avenues, and you're on here dry bagging like a grown man, asking people to spend more money on Patreon. And then you want to go head on and say, hey, can you help us on the app? But I can tell you who never had to do that, Kev on Stage, Kevin Samuels. See, Kevin Samuels and even content creators like myself, we never have to ask for money. Want to know why? Well, I think it's because we're pretty good, right? It's called reinvesting into what you do. But a lot of you guys, you're so used to making a lot of money for so many years, you feel like your audience owes you everything. Your audience owes you everything to keep you and your people employed. How about you keep your people employed? You're the employer. You're the person that needs to go out there and figure this stuff out. Don't make your fans figure it out. I've been on YouTube for like almost 10 years now, right? I have never asked my fans to help me keep my operations open. Want to know why? I find out what they want to hear, what we want to talk about, what's the strategy, what's the great collaborations, and I bust my tail to make sure those things happen. You know what I mean? And these are the same kind of guys who will go out there and hate on somebody like Kevin Samuels, a guy who went and worked. He worked until he died. He went and did what he had to do. And he didn't sit up here and beg for donations like a guy like this. And I just think that it's really pathetic to do that. You know, you hear the black church guys doing it, but YouTubers coming to your audience talking about we've lost 70% of our income. Can you help me? Do you know how much money YouTubers make? This guy is making over $1 million a year. I'm pretty sure. Maybe you need to downsize your house, bro. Maybe you need to sell some stuff from your crib, bro. Maybe you need to get out there and make sure that your staff is taken care of. But you can't do that because you want to come out here and beg. But that's okay. Begging is what some folks do. But hey, in Kevin Samuels' memory, don't worry, bro. I'm going to leave you something. I'm going to leave you a nice tip here, right? I'm going to leave your ass alone. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson. Back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Which is for all you do, subscribe to the bell. We're out.